All right, so I am fresh off the flu, but I wanted to make sure I got this done before I forgot to do it again. But wanted to summarize what Twin Oaks Capital has been working on in 2025, the last year, primarily focusing on efficiencies of operations, better projections, and also more importantly, looking at other opportunities, whether it's in the self storage industry or others. So, primarily three areas that we felt that we could be better at, whether it's comparison to our peers within our market, outside of it, whether it's evaluating what the little guys are doing that were beating us in certain markets, to even what the Class A competitors like U-Haul, CubeSmart, various companies like those. So we focused on three things. I'm going to summarize those really quickly, and then I'm going to focus into what generally most people are watching this channel for, which is a quick mini lesson on something that we've taken that we've learned. So number one, SEO. We are finding a number of ways now to utilize SEO. One of the things that we found through this is that you can obviously use, your typical Google metrics like your Google, your local service ad, which is another service within that. But then more importantly, now we're actually finding that we're finding relevance through ChatGPT and other AI agents now, where people are actually finding us through ChatGPT. And part of that is, I got to look into this more as we've gone through it, but we do a lot of work with ChatGPT that we've published, and we're actually finding that's actually helping our relevance. So people are searching for us through search engines like that, and then they're getting to us that way too as well. So that was one of the things that we worked on as kind of first thing out is, hey, let's not spend $2,500 a month at something that we don't understand. So I personally and myself and another person on my staff, I actually took a course on basically how to do those things. And what I found is that when I was interviewing people and they were telling me all these things, I literally had no idea what they were saying. It sounded good and some of them got decent results. But in the end, what I found out is that now that I understand what all these metrics are, now when we go back out and we decide to recontract it, if we do, we can go ahead and do that. One of the things I felt was, was it worth my time to spend $2,500, a month on somebody else, or did I need to spend my time and learn out of myself? In hindsight, I should have done it because it probably saved me six figures this year on learning how to do it myself and learning not to spend too much. Because honestly, we were spending way more than we needed to, and now we've cut our spending down to probably about, let's see, over four facilities, roughly only about $1,200 a month, and we're still maintaining leadership in the market. We're closer. Before that, I was spending closer to $8,000 a market to maintain that. The next thing, effectiveness. So there's obviously two different ways that you can approach that. You can affect it on the speed of the pickup. AI is helping out a lot of that. That also helps with your Google relevance. They're seeing every call is being picked up. And then number two, the amount of service. So we tried to explore a way that wasn't being too numbers oriented, taking a look at it as a person to figure out what's the best combination of spending time building rapport with people, getting to know them, versus actually just, hey, picking up every call, making sure they're answered, and only passing it off if it's a warm lead. Because we find that there was some success with, hey, getting rid of the people that are taking up the majority of our time that really, are not even making us money. Because, if I'm charging $60 a unit and that person calls us 5 or 6 times a month and I'm on the phone with that person, or at least my staff is, for 4 to 5 hours a month, that's not really a profitable lead for us as well, right? And then the last thing is that I would say one of the things that we are an industry leader for is that we are very, very good at projecting from construction budgets, call center costs, all that we've been wrong. But the one thing that we've been really terrible at doing, and actually I say it's terrible because we hold ourselves to a high standard, is understanding how much snowfall overruns was going to cost us. And so everybody has their general, like, hey, we budget for X many amount of plows at this amount of pushes. But what they don't project is they want you to go over that. And so one of the things that we found is that in Michigan, where most of our facilities are located that we personally manage, there has been a lot of snowfall these last 2 years. 3 years prior to that, we had very, very mild winters. No issues at all. The issue we ran beyond that is that, okay, once we go over 10% over, okay, yeah, we're roughly going 10% over budget. But then once we went 40, 50, 60% over on snowfall, we weren't going 60% over budget. We were going 200% over budget, or some cases like that. Even in case we were a budget. And so what we found is there was three things that we needed to account for. So diesel prices, which is what we use significantly for, because one of our trademarks within our company is that we don't push snow. We don't just take a truck with a plow and go through. We might do that a little bit. We actually use a shovel attachment on a bulldozer and literally move that snow off site to another area. Reason for that being is that you'll see in the thumbnail for this video as well. If we don't move the snow appropriately, we just move it to a ditch or something, and that snow gets up 2 or 3 feet. But before we know, if we get a strong wind, that snow that we just plowed is going to go right back over it too, anyways. So what we needed to do to be more forthcoming is we need to project using national data. And this is actually where we really started to learn more about that, is that I had a conversation with a meteorologist that is actually a self-storage owner. And he actually was giving me all these metrics he uses to determine how he handles his plowing for the month. And then I'm like, wow, this is really, really detailed. But then when I really looked at it, I'm like, it really wasn't. It really just a couple of things. So I'm going to share those what he does. So there's a website. It's called the U.S. Climate Normals Quick Access. If you type in NOAANCI U.S. Climate, you will get that. But on there, it will give you the 30-year averages and the decade averages, so you can see what you're getting for snowfall in your area. So based off of that, you can formulate a formula based on current diesel costs or whatnot, how many plows you're going to be, how many average inches per snowfall you're going to get. I know there's going to be some issues with the type of snow you're getting. Are you getting wet or dry snow? Are you getting it more because you're on a different side of a lake? But at least that gives you an idea to project that way. And then once you get that data, now then you can project, okay, this winter that we have coming up, where are we at? Are we expecting to be 20% above historical averages? Are we expecting to be right at? And then you can project that way. And then furthermore, then what he did is we've basically developed the plan. So if we are expecting a very, very light month, then we can go to our basic plan. If we have ditches carved out for it or culverts, we can simply push the snow in there. If we are expecting 40 inches of snow a week, for example, then we need to pivot. And honestly, when I talk to people about that, and I ask them, like, so if you check, do you have it in your best practices, to double check, hey, are we going to get a unseasonably bad week? And what I mostly got most of the time I talked with various people, large companies, 20, 30, 40 unit owners, was that, yeah, we understand that. And we just, they kind of just said, we just expect that we're going to pay a lot more. I'm like, well, is there a plan in place to pay a lot more, but then less what you actually expect by controlling that even better? So that's what we decided to do. We decided to basically formulate a plan where, okay, if we're going to expect to get 40 inches of snow, we're not going to do the exact same thing we're doing. We're expect to get 4 inches of snow, which is we're going to actually move it to a different area so that snow won't get back into an area where it can be a problem again. And then we'll go ahead and basically then that will allow us. And then once we're getting 40, 50, 60%, then we'll be able to formulate. The other thing about it too as well, it was that we took our square footage of our area. So let's say that I have 40,000 square feet of land to push snow. Okay. I have 160,000 square foot of area I need to plow. That means that's a 4 multiple, right? So if I get 1 inches of snow over that 160,000 square feet, that means I'm going to put 4 inches of snow onto that. Now, if I get 16 inches of snow, does that mean then I'm going to basically put, after that, I'm going to keep compounding it up there? At some point, you have nowhere to go. So that's then when we found out, like, okay, so that's why. Once snow gets beyond a certain weight, and we're like 4 feet, 3 feet up in piles of snow, which this is probably make you think, God, I'm never going to come to Michigan because this guy just talking about how much snowfall. There's a little bit of exaggeration there. I understand that. But the idea though there is that now we understand, okay, so how are we going to control that? We can't try to do what we did before on this plan when on this plan it won't work. So now better understanding our capacity that allowed us to do that. So that's what I really generally took away from this meteorologist, is that he really understood what is my capacity, what is my cost going to be if I go beyond this capacity, because if the worst case comes to worst, I might literally have to pay somebody to take snow away from me and truck it away. So in some cases, we actually consider like, well, so we got an extra acre and a half of trees. Do we chop those extra acre and a half of trees down to make more room to accommodate snow? And the answer is yes. That's the best, better solution than spending so much more to do that. So that's what we did. So those are things that you want to look at going forward if you're looking to basically express line items. Now, as far as our strategies at Twin Oaks Capital, this year we have not really invested heavily in self storage. We have been primarily having more heavily in industrial bay storage. What we found is that we had the expertise with actually building warehouses. We built a number of them for boats and RVs. Why not build them for tenants that had mixed industrial type usages too as well? We felt that where the rates were at in the industry in comparison to the cost to build, no different than what we did with self storage, we decided to go and did and do that as well. There was a time in self storage where I could build for $30 to $45 a square foot, and these facilities would be worth $65 to $85 a square foot immediately because of the demand. Now that has really shrunk quite a bit. I'm not seeing that type of delta anymore. But then once we moved into industrial, we found that I could build building at $100 to $110 square foot and get anywhere from $8 to $12 in rent annualized, triple net, so relatively free of expenses, and roughly be only at like a 10 multiple of that. Whereas if you look at median industries like multifamily, things like that, you're at 14 to 20 multiples of that. So that's where we saw the opportunity was at. We have not taken actual active investor investments in a very, very long time, simply because we've been primarily focused on efficiencies. And also, we were basically just using our own money in house. 2026 will be a little bit different. So that is also part of the reason why I'm posting this video, though, too, as well. Because if you are looking to invest, I know we took down our website for investor engagement. We probably will reactivate that, and we will be taking discussions with investors to discuss that in the future. So this is signing off. Hopefully my voice wasn't too raspy for y'all. Thanks a lot.